What is going on, people? A little fantasy fight. A fight between Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis. A classic fight that's always discussed and always talked about. In 1993, so at this time, Riddick Bowe was the undisputed heavyweight champion. He had just defeated Evander Holyfield. Lennox Lewis had just come off beating Riddick. They did that tournament, and Riddick Bowe famously threw the belts in the garbage as a joke to not fight Lennox Lewis, basically saying Lennox Lewis was not worthy of a fight with him. They lowballed Lewis. They seemed to not be interested in fighting Lennox Lewis at the time. And unfortunately, that fight never ended up happening because Holyfield then did a rematch the next year with Holyfield and Bowe. And Holyfield then won that. Then Lennox Lewis and Bowe were going to fight after that, when Lennox was WBC champion and Bowe had no belts. But then Lennox Lewis got knocked out by Oliver McCall. And then in 1997, after the two Galata fights, Riddick Bowe retired. So the fight never happened. Everyone always wonders what would have happened if they fought in 1993. Now, they fought in the Olympics, and a lot of Lennox Lewis fans and Riddick Bowe detractors will bring that up and say Lennox Lewis beat Riddick Bowe in the Olympics, so that shows that he would have beat him in the professionals. First of all, Olympic-style boxing and professional boxing is totally different. Secondly, Lennox Lewis was over 2 years older than Riddick Bowe, and Lennox Lewis was in his second Olympic Games because he lost to Tyrell Biggs in the '84 Olympics, and Riddick Bowe was in his first. And third, Lennox Lewis versus Riddick Bowe, that fight was a complete joke from the officiating standpoint, completely unfair in terms of the way it was officiated. I did not think that was fair at all to Riddick Bowe, and I was a very early disqualification in my opinion. Maybe Lennox Lewis would have won, but definitely not a fair, situation when it comes to the officiating. So we get into this fight, and Olympic style and pro is different. Riddick Bowe, he beat that Gonzalez guy, Jorge Luis Gonzalez, and he had beaten Bowe in the amateurs. And like I said, Tyrell Biggs beat Lennox Lewis in the amateurs. So does that mean that Tyrell Biggs would have beat Lennox Lewis in the professional ranks? I don't think so. So you can't go off that. Riddick Bowe was at the time more refined in his skill set than Lennox Lewis. He had the faster hands, the better uppercuts, the much better inside fighting, and he had the better chin, I think, as well. Lennox was bigger, he was stronger, faster reflexes, more one-punch power, and had better feet. I think that would have been interesting because Riddick Bowe never really fought against a big guy like that until way later in his career versus Andrew Galata. And Galata was, at that point, Riddick Bowe was way past it. Then on the flip side, though, Lennox Lewis had fought against Razor Riddick, and he had knocked Riddick out in 2 rounds. And Riddick was a similar size opponent to Bowe. Like, they were, the big heavyweights at the time. So there is that to be said. Riddick Bowe, his big weakness to me is he does not throw straight right hands, and he did not have the greatest foot speed or head movement. So he was there to be hit, Riddick Bowe. He could be hit by big shots. I think his chin was good, but like many of his detractors will say, it was relatively untested because he didn't really fight big punchers. He fought Holyfield, Selden, Tony Tubbs, that Elijah Tahiri guy, Jesse Ferguson, people like that. But he didn't really fight the other big punchers of the division. So it does make you wonder how he would do in such a scenario. For me, I look at it and I say that he would have had his hands full with Lennox Lewis, particularly in the early rounds. But then on the flip side, Lennox Lewis got knocked out about a year later, unexpectedly, by Oliver McCall, who hit him with the overhand right. What's Riddick Bowe's best punch? Overhand right. Will Riddick Bowe's trainer, Eddie Futch, have capitalized on that? You have to think so, because in my opinion, Eddie Futch is the greatest trainer in the history of boxing. Just my opinion. A lot of people say Emmanuel Stewart. Some people will say Angelo Dundee, Ray Arcel. But just for me, Eddie Futch is the guy. Then you look at it and you say, and you know, before that McCall fight, Lennox Lewis, he fought against another big guy named Frank Bruno. He was losing the first 4 rounds. Frank Bruno was out jabbing him. And Lennox's lack of technique and holding his feet too wide and pulling straight back, it really showed in that fight. Eventually he was able to win the fight, bite down. He was just able to overpower Frank Bruno because Frank Bruno's stamina always waned as the fight went on. But it makes me wonder, in a dog fight, could he have beaten Riddick Bowe? I don't know. And Emmanuel Stewart, who became Lennox Lewis's trainer later on, said that he had spoken to Eddie Futch, and Eddie Futch had told Emmanuel Stewart that he wanted to keep Riddick Bowe away from Lennox Lewis because he felt it was too dangerous, because what would happen in the pros would be the same as what happened in the Olympics, that Lennox Lewis would overpower him. It could be Futch was just saying that because him and Riddick had some, you know, personal problems. You know, he ended up leaving Riddick Bowe. I don't know. I think this is a fascinating matchup. I think that Lennox would have the advantage early in the fight, and he could knock Bowe out within the first 6 rounds. But I think as the fight went on, Riddick Bowe's superior hand speed and experience in big fights, because he already had the fight with Holyfield, would pay off. I think in 1993, I'm going to say Riddick Bowe beats Lennox Lewis in a great fight by unanimous decision. He might even have to come up and get up the deck to do it, but I think he would do it. And it's very interesting because I think both guys, while being big and strong, they were both looked at as like the new era super heavyweights. They both were very flawed at that time. I think in 93, Riddick Bowe would have beaten Lennox Lewis, but I think that later on, if they had fought in 95, 96, really any time after 95, I think Lennox would have beat him. And I think if you had to do the 1999 Lennox Lewis versus the 1993 Riddick Bowe, which is really prime for prime, I think Lennox Lewis would have beat him. But just at that point in 1993, who would have won? I'm going to go with Riddick Bowe. Let me know what you guys think. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Peace.